This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
This episode is sponsored by Guidance Residential. Join Guidance Residential this November 9th for their consumer webinar, The Benefits of Islamic Home Financing, where you can find out best practices and tips on how to make the home buying experience smooth and easy for you and your community. Topics covered include the benefits of homeownership, understanding riba and today's lending practices, the differences between the Sharia way and the conventional way, how to prepare your finances and mistakes to avoid, what to expect during the home buying and searching process, and Q&A for the first-time home buyer. Share this event with your networks and register for limited seats at www.guidanceresidential.com.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mommying While Muslim podcast. This is Uzma Jaffrey.
And this is Zeba Hassan. How are you doing? First of all, why are you wearing a sweatshirt?
It is 64 degrees outside.
64. Give me a
It is
break.
cold. It is winter.
That is not winter.
In Arizona was my caveat.
Oh my God. 64 is what I have my heat at right now in the DMV.
Oh no, we are at 70 because the house colder than 70. Like my husband can't sleep.
It makes my skin dry. I don't know how you can handle it.
We moisturize twice a day with sunscreen.
Well, so I do, like, I literally, look at what I've been doing. I've been putting lotion on. I'm so dry. I hate the heat. The heat is so bad for me.
But isn't it humid there even in the winter?
No.
Really?
I mean, do you not know how winter, you need to like figure out.
It's been a long time since I've been to winter in the DC, and I'm very happy for that gap. So
yeah, you're like, I'm happy. So tell me a little bit about what you have been up to, because I feel like we don't really get to chat so much because we're so crazy busy doing our own independent projects.
Yeah, I did want to talk about a recent self-care thing that I did. I am not cheap with the money I spend on myself, because that is literally how I kept myself alive. I absolutely attribute my massages and spa treatments to why my children are still alive.
Okay.
Because people say happy wife, happy life. I'm like, happy mom, happy kid. You know, You've got to be happy as a mom in order for your kids to be happy, because we always say it all the time. And this is why we have the retreats now, fill your own cup retreats, because if you don't fill your own cup, you ain't got nothing to pour on anybody else. And everybody needs to be poured onto by mother. So we're mothering mothers so that mothers can go and do their jobs better. And inshallah, we're hoping in that way we get a little bit of hasanah. But my journey was to an actual hammam in the United States. So for those who don't know what a hammam is, a hammam is, so what I have heard from my North African friends, it's like a community bathhouse, and you're sitting on these marble slabs, and all the, khaltos and taunts from the community are all
so
out
like you're
there.
Just sitting there like buck naked, or can you
like, some of them are, not all of them.
No,
not all of them. They're hiding. I know, exactly. Ugh. But that's the community.
And then your butt naked is on the marble thing. Like, do they clean it in between? Like, that
yes, they clean it. They clean it very well in between. But it's done because you can take a bath every single day. We make wudu 5 times a day. Yes. So water is not a stranger to us Muslims, but we're so into cleanliness that we also need to exfoliate, like from head to foot, like every piece of dirt on your body. And it, you know what we talk about, like, when non-Muslim people go to the bathroom, it's like, you ain't clean, man, unless you used water. Like, we're water people. We like it. And so my North African friends were like, is there a hammam here? Because, oh my God, we haven't gone to the hammam in like 2 years and we're so dirty. And I'm like, why you shower? And they're like, no, back home, if you don't go to the hammam at least once a week, you are dirty. And I'm like, oh, well, then I must be filthy. So we have the Indian version of the sandstone marked clay thing that our dads and moms used to use on us that took off a few layers of skin. It's called
I never got that. Like, you'll have to show me. That wasn't
It is a torture device. I have PTSD
I read that in Rabia's book, and I was literally like, what is this?
Oh, it wasn't fatty. Yeah. Yes. So that torture device was used on me as a child, which is why I have remained dirty. until I went to Oasis Moroccan Bath
Oh
in
my
Houston, Texas,
God.
which has authentic hammam rituals, however, in the privacy of your own marble slab in your own
Oh,
room with
see,
your
that's
therapist. So your
that's called the
nakedness is all
American
contained.
way. That's called the
Yeah.
American way. I don't want to be buck
Private.
naked in front of
Yes.
everybody. I don't care if you're my Muslim sister. You don't need to see that. I don't need to see
Yeah.
that. Okay, we're
So
not
now I
doing
took
that.
my daughter, and my daughter is very much
Oh,
into me. We are going back. We must go back every month
oh.
for this because I don't want to be dirty.
Okay.
I've created a monster.
I love that. And I love that you're doing self care because, that's my main thing with mothering. But for our audience, you don't have to fly to Houston and get the hammam and
No,
do
you don't
all
have
that.
to do
You could
that.
do simple
You
things.
should.
You should, and you can, and you should treat yourself. However, you can do mindfulness breaks during the day. You can go for a walk in the sun. There are affordable, smaller versions of self care that do not have to be
You can get a
full
JAMA, which
on.
is really like 10 cents.
I don't even know what that is. Can you tell
That
me?
torture device I told you about, that
Okay,
that
so
Rabia
you're going
used
to
on
have
her.
to show me that because I have literally never seen that before in my life and I would
Mhm.
love to hear about it. So
Yeah.
so for the moms listening, please treat yourself, but everyday self-care is huge and that means as simple as taking a shower by yourself. And I'm not into the baths because I couldn't consider that human stew, but if it floats for you, if it works for you, it works for you,
It floats
okay?
your boat.
If it floats your boat, have fun. But I'm not. Even my kids, when they take a bath, this is not a joke. I make them shower first and then take a bath.
I make them
I'm
shower
that mom
after.
because
Yeah.
you're just sitting in your dirt.
Your dirt, yeah.
It's
That's why I make them
gross.
shower off the dirt because I can see it. So because I know how to exfoliate them properly. So if anything, my kids have always had a hammam since they were little.
So
Because
you're
I'm
like,
like, I am
I'm
getting
doing it.
all of this dirt off you. Like you're scrubbing me so hard, and I literally just use my fingers.
Oh, yeah, because that you don't need devices.
Because if it doesn't roll off your fingers, you did not take that skin off.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love that we went down that point because, part of what we're doing is, we started off December with kind of discussing like, functional medicine for Muslim mental health. Like it's all about different types of hot topics for the mental health community within the mental health community and kind of giving voice to the things that we as mothers have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, we're going to switch gears a little bit because our next guest, she talks about the unrealistic expectations of motherhood, something that really can set us all off, right? We're supposed to be Instagram ready, super sweet, never scream. Like my kid actually said to me this morning, Mama, you know how you always say you're going to spank my butt, but never actually do? And I was like, God, I actually
Oh,
might
you
do
called me
that.
out.
Yeah. And he was like, we just think it's so funny. But as a mom, we do and say things that we probably shouldn't be doing and saying because we're just trying to survive during the day. So, we end up on an emotional roller coaster. That's the truth of it. And it's a completely avoidable. So our guest today will help us kind of detangle some of that. And she is very well known in the community, Salam. So we're going to talk a little bit to Sadaf Wine. She is a Kashmiri Canadian mom of, guess what, everybody? Triplets. Yes, I said that. Triplets. Mashallah. And
Mashallah.
mashallah. She is a serial entrepreneur. Currently, she is the director of strategy and development at the Droplets of Mercy. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. She's also the head of marketing at Halal Meals. I'm hungry just even reading that. You may also know Sadaf as a business coach who helps Muslim women start and grow their businesses when she's not working, which is probably hardly ever based on her Instagram account. I have to say, she's always on the go, this woman. You can find her creating unique community events, taking a watercolor class. We're going to have to talk to her about that, or wandering around local handmade markets with her husband, kids, and support makers. At the same time, she is really about how hard motherhood is, outsourcing stuff. That is not motherhood. I'm very big on that. And finding the sukoon in between. And we are so thankful to have Sadaf on the show today. Assalamu alaikum, Sadaf.
Hello.
Assalamualaikum. Welcome to the podcast.
Walaikum salam. Thanks for having me.
We are super stoked to start this conversation because
Before we do, can we ask her if is a human stew person or she's not a human
Oh,
stew
yeah.
person just before we
Okay.
even get started?
That's like a completely different question that we start with. But
I
yes,
know.
what
I
is
just
your
want to
take
know
on
this.
human
So
stew?
first of all,
No,
I
stew
did
doesn't.
make some notes about that Oasis Hammam
Okay,
spa
good. Oh, she is a
Good.
pro.
because
She is a
I'm
pro.
fully visiting Houston soon, so I'm going to be going there. And I do take baths for my self-care. So I'm a human
Okay.
stew person, but then
Yay, like
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
You
Kindred
guys,
spirit.
it's 2 to
Kindred
3.
stew
It's 2 to
people.
1. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Sorry about that. I just had to know.
Yeah. I think you're definitely in a minority because the rest of us are okay with the stew because we shower after the stew is over
Exactly.
because you got to get the little wormies off of you and all the bath salts out
Oh
of the
my
places
God.
that you don't want them stuck.
See,
So
that just creeps me out. I'm not gonna lie.
So the real question we kick the podcast off with is tell us a little bit about your mom story, whatever you're comfortable sharing with and about your kids, and then a little bit about your momming philosophy.
Ooh, okay, juicy. So, in terms of my mom's story, I mean, obviously I have triplets. So my mom's story
Mashallah.
kind of started when I thought I was having twins, and then they turned into triplets, and really just got really really tough from there. So it's kind of a unique story. You typically see people who are really excited about their pregnancies and their birth story, and for me, it was just when my anxiety really took a turn for the worse, and my depression too, because I didn't think any of them were going to make it. So it's kind of been a tough 5 years. My kids are 5.5 years old right now, so it's been really tough. There was postpartum depression in between, a lot of outsourcing, and I think the biggest thing I've learned is that it's not, you're never going to solve this. You're never going to solve motherhood. You're never going to be feeling like you've kind of got everything all together. You just have to know that you've done hard things and you're going to continue to do hard things. So that's kind of my mom's story. And in terms of my momming philosophies, I'm all about outsourcing anything and everything that is not actually motherhood. So I don't do laundry. I don't typically clean the house. I don't even get my kids ready in the morning. So I've outsourced as much as I can so that I can be emotionally present for my kids and play with them, and do all the things that I think they're going to remember.
That speaks to my heart so much because that was something that I early on had to tell my husband, who's not very particular about anything, but he was like, the house should be clean. And I was like, listen, you can have a house or you can have children alive. You pick. I can't do both. I can do what, like, I literally can do one or the other because, like you, I also struggled with postpartum depression and psychosis. And there's just certain things that it was like a mental block for me. I could not get over the overwhelm of housekeeping. It was like, it was enough to like make me feel like I had to stay in bed because I didn't want to get up and face that. But getting up and like feeding my kids and doing all of that, I could. And I'm so glad you learned it early and you did it early because I think since we're talking about Muslim mental health topics, probably served your mental health in a big way to outsource a lot of that stuff early on, correct?
Absolutely. And my my journey of really addressing my mental health issues started with the birth of my kids, because before that I definitely explored mental health, but not in the way that I've done since having kids. Because the truth is, if you don't take care of your mental health, you can't take care of anyone. You can't take care of yourself. You can't take care of anyone or anything. So yeah, definitely something that's super important to me.
Yeah. I was really proud about being a very high functioning, successful person and nothing ever scared me. And then I had kids and I was scared of everything. Like everything made me anxious. And I was like, who am I? So it definitely throws your identity for a curve too. And if you don't get therapy, you're just going to be stuck in that rut for a really, really long time. So there's a couple of things that you've posted about, and they really spoke to us at Momming While Muslim. And so we're going to ask you to talk about kind of the origin of how that evolved, like your mommying posts, like where did they come from? Because you're a business coach. That's, while you do work for Droplets of Mercy right now as a business coach who's elevated so many Muslim women in the business spaces and as entrepreneurs, Where did the mommying come in? Is that something that was inspired by your clients or inspired by your own experience? Kind of share the origin of that.
Yeah, it was a mix of both for sure. At first, I just felt kind of shocked, surprised, and disappointed that nobody had told me how difficult mothering really was. Or, I mean, you're always told, when you're always asked, when are you going to have kids? Oh, like have kids. And then when I actually did it, I was like, this is not fun. This is actually not what it looks like on Instagram at all. And how come nobody told me? So on one hand, I'm talking about the honest truth in my own experience, in my own words, so that other women are completely shocked when they have kids and they're like, wait a second, this is actually me turning into a different person and I'm never going to have that life again. And I try not to be negative about it. But I just speak the truth. So one reason why I do it is because I don't think there's enough people talking about how freaking hard it actually is. And it's not like just hard in the first year or two. Like I'm 5 years in and it's just hard. It's just the hardest.
And it's not just hard because you had 3 at one
Yeah,
time.
I don't think that's true.
That probably adds a little bit to
special
it. It does add,
circumstance.
but I was going to say that does add a little bit to it, right? Because the physical, I mean, just imagine the physical thing of everything that we've had with each individual kid, right? And then you're kind of like throwing 2 more kids at the situation. So I do feel like it is a little bit more difficult, but I not to scare you, mine is 19 and it's hard, and it's hard in a lot of different ways. Like you guys are in the physical hardship of motherhood, where you're still physically in it, but at some point it becomes emotional. And imagine this, she's gonna have 3 teenagers at one time, Asma.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
But actually she has that to look forward to. I think 3 teenagers
in a lot of amazing, beautiful ways. But part of us, I recently posted something in our group about how super the concept of saying we're super moms and we're amazing and awesome. Yes, we are all those things, but on some point it does sabotage motherhood because we're just in this constant quest to get that title, right? Like, oh, I'm going to make everything look easy. I'm going to cut my sandwiches in little,
dinosaur shapes.
And I'm going to make my kids a note. I write my kids a note on lunch the first day of school. And that is it. Okay. And they expect it. They get excited about it. Like, I'm not trying to write them notes every single day. And like, what do they do with the origami? Yeah, I'm not doing any of that stuff. And if you do, cool. But okay, so how do you feel? And I feel like you are doing this. It sounds like on your social media, you're kind of taking ownership of, dispelling that super mom title and the impacts that it actually has on women that might not know what's going on. So like, what do you feel is, as somebody who is a social media influencer, what do you feel is your kind of responsibility to dispel that? Or maybe you don't feel like you need to dispel that belief.
Yeah, I do feel like, at least in the previous years, maybe not as much now, is like, I did want to dispel that myth of this like super mom and all that, because it's just not possible. And yes, I did have 3 at once. I only know this journey. I that's all I know. But you can't do it alone. It looks like on Instagram, everyone's doing everything alone, and no one's doing it alone. And maybe there's some people doing it alone, but I can like pretty much guarantee you they've got like a lot of mental health struggles because you can't, it's not possible. Like, women can't be expected to go from being like doing all of the things they used to do before kids and then like add kids to the picture and then produce the same output. Like, it's just not fair. It's not possible. And that's why I hate that whole super mom mentality, because although I'm an amazing epic mom and I'm the best mom for my kids, like, I will not sacrifice like my mental health or my physical health for the sake of this title of super mom. Like, it's, yeah, we're human. We're supposed to be human. We're supposed to have limitations. So I don't like that. And like one of my teachers, Anse Tamara Gray, she spoke about this before I had kids, about how the whole mentality of supermom was really a way for women to kind of like a lot of, on one hand, it was like a lot of women who wanted to control every aspect of the situation, and it had a lot to do with control and anxiety that came from that made them want to be in control of everything. So it's definitely not healthy at all. And yeah, it doesn't mean if you don't call yourself a super mom, it doesn't mean you're not an amazing mom, because yes, I think I'm an amazing mom, and I don't cut my kids' lunch into hearts. I don't even know what they took for lunch today. I know they're going to be having a good lunch, but yeah, you don't have to be part of every single aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I read somewhere that supermom was actually a social construct created by a man so that we can continue to do all of the work, go work outside of the house full time, but also come back and clock in here. And while you're at work, you're the one who's going to sacrifice your work time if somebody is sick at school or if somebody has an after school thing. You're the one that's expected to manage all of that. Pickups, drop-offs, that's all her domain because she's a super mom. She can do it all. No, it's because society decided that we needed to do it all because we didn't want to put it on the men, because we know men with one menstrual cramp will double over and die. But like in the meantime, like all of the hard things women will continue to do and carry the crux of society because we've done it since the beginning of time. Like we are literally the answer to a man's prayer because he was lonely. Allah sent him Hawa. He didn't send him Abdullah, So it's like, it's because women get the job done, So I think supermom is a way to sabotage ourselves because like you said, Sada, every single last one of us is super. We nourished human beings inside of our bodies. We continue to nourish them outside of our bodies. So anything outside of that, I think, is just icing. Like anything else we do, the dinosaur sandwiches or, whatever hand-sewn clothes, we can make them. That's all icing. If you like it and that floats your boat, that's totally fine. Do it. But for some of us, that's not what serves us in our mothering journey. So I really appreciate how real you are about that, because seeing somebody like you talking about this is really hard. At first, when I read those, I was like, oh, that's because she had three at the same time. And then I was like, no, what she's saying is true, whether you have one, or you have three, you have seven at once. Like it is all hard and it all requires a team effort. What Hillary Clinton, it takes a village. It literally takes a village, because I know that's how mine were raised. And I really, really pray that everybody has the same kind of village type support in their home communities, wherever they are, but especially in the West, where this myth of supermom is perpetuated so much to make us do more than we're humanly capable of doing or should be doing at the expense of our mental health. I hope that every single one of us has that village to fall back on. So just segueing right into that. Besides society, obviously I've already said society and this supermom myth is a pressure on mom, but where else are all of these external pressures, external or internal pressures from on moms coming from, and what role are they playing in her mental health?
Yeah, this is like, I was thinking about what I would say for this, and it's just me to be like completely honest, so that's what I'm going to say. Number one, it comes from ourselves. A lot of us, and me as well, like I'm an overcoming perfectionist, just like I want to be the best at my job, just like I want to be the best at content creation, like I want to be the best mom. So when I realized like, oh, wait a second, like I can't do this all by myself, and like no matter how hard I work, no matter how little I sleep, I'm not getting better at this. This is just what it is now. Like this is just me. So a lot of the pressure came from myself. I've gotten better at that with therapy and with doing CBT, and just like even personally reflecting, using the Quran as healing. I've gotten better with the pressure from myself. But the other pressures, especially very early on in my motherhood journey, it came from a place of love, but it was so hard, was my own mom and my siblings. and hopefully they're not listening to this. I love you guys to bits, and they've also,
We hope you
I know,
are.
they're also like my
And then it brings you closer together.
they're my biggest supporters. They're also the ones who are still to this day getting me through everything I struggle with. But it was just a lot of pressure to be like my mom. Like my mom raised 5 girls all by herself. My dad was working shift work, like he was never home, and she never had any help. We lived in a very small place. Like we were not wealthy by any means. And just that reminder, either her or my sisters reminding me, or me myself saying like, well, mom did it with 5 of us while mom did it, was like, oh my God, why can't I even take care of these 3? And I have a nanny, and my husband is like always helping, and he's home, and I have this and that. So that was killing me. And then also because my sisters, 4 of them had, or 3 of them, I can't even count, they had kids already. So looking at how they mothered, that was a lot of pressure on me, because there was like, okay, well, we tried this and it worked. Why haven't you tried it yet? Or I told you to try this. And oh my God, that just killed me. And it took me to take a stand, even just like an internal stand, being like, I am going to accept and appreciate their advice from a place of love, and I'm going to do what works best for me. It's like that line that hopefully many of you have heard, saying like, mommy knows best. You can gather all this data, and then me being like this logical A-type personality, like gather this data, and then I'm going to sift through it and choose one of them or none of them. And I'm going to choose what works for me. But, oh, the pressure is real.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I'm
honestly,
feeling all of that.
yeah, and honestly too, like it sounds like I had a very different upbringing than you all. Like my mom was not involved at all in my childhood. She worked full time, and I was essentially the caretaker for my siblings, and she literally admits that even to this day. So for me, part of my journey was I was going to do everything the exact opposite, and putting that external pressure on myself. Like I'm going to be the person who's there for every single thing. And honestly, you put yourself into my own physical health. It wasn't even a mental health. My physical health took a toll. So you can be kind of on both sides of the spectrum and still come sadly to the same place. Why? Because regardless, I think the moral of the story is we're all getting that pressure one way or the other, externally and internally. So thank you so much for sharing that story. And I'm going to just ask a very I'm just going to be very blunt. There are people that cannot afford the lifestyle that maybe you and Uzma has, or have that luxury, right, to do that. I have to say I was one of those. In the beginning, I had kids very young, and my husband was just starting a career. He never changed a diaper. Why? He was working 80 hours a week. I mean, he literally was working. He was physically not there. I did not have the family support. I literally did everything until we became a little bit more mature, as far as we're moving on in our earning journey. What do people like that do? What kind of resources, what kind of things can we provide them? Because there are going to be some people that are looking at this or listening to this being like, yeah, I don't have, like your mom, I have 5 kids. We're living in I'm doing what I need to do in order to survive. What kind of things can we help, or at least some support that we can give those women that don't have the luxury of having a nanny, make their sandwiches or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, that's definitely like the majority of people. I had kids when I was older too, and yes, we're very privileged, and I work as well, so we're able to cover all of those costs. And some of the things that I'll mention will also not be accessible to you, but being able to ask for help and take help. So when your friend says, or when your friend offers to babysit, actually taking her up on the offer. 100% of people have not taken me up on my offer when I ask them. Because I have help, I'm available and mobile, and I'm okay with people being dropped over, but nobody has ever taken me up on my offer. And I think it has to do a lot with this internal pressure of like, I can do it myself. I don't want to burden her. But I'm just saying right now to all of you listening, if someone asks you, it's coming from a place of love and they want to support you. So even if you just once in your life take them up on the offer, but just let people help and ask for their help too. Another thing is just joining like community like whether they have like mommy groups, or I know the masjid sometimes does, even if you're taking your kids along, just getting out there and having those conversations with people just to lighten your load a bit mentally. If you can't afford the therapy or that kind of thing, just so you have someone to talk to. And I honestly feel it's easier to talk to people that you might never see again. So sometimes it's nice to just be like, you know, this is what I'm struggling with in my motherhood journey. And then you're like, I can tell them anything. Like, you know, I'm not going to see them again. And you sort of don't feel that judgment.
Until you see them at a
Yeah.
dinner party like the next week, and then you're like,
Just
oh
pretend
my
like you
God,
don't
no,
know
I'm
them.
kidding.
Yeah, but those are just some ideas, and then really remembering that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't burden a soul with more than you can bear. And I know that's hard. I always believe in like using the Quran as healing and also taking other action. So I'm a big like I like to promote both of those. So I do believe like turning to the Quran and doing simple things like making sure you're praying at the beginning of prayer time. If you can't wake up for tahajjud, that will change your life. Obviously, if you're sleep deprived, it gets harder, or you might be up anyways at that time. So things like that. But it is extremely tough. I do know that I'm incredibly blessed in that sense. And I give myself credit because not every mother would be okay even admitting that she has help. I mean, I know tons of content creators who have nannies, and like nobody is offering that up. Nobody's offering that information because there's a bit of guilt and shame associated with it. And maybe I'm older and I don't have that guilt and shame
You don't
because
care.
I'm older, but I literally am like, I wish everyone could have help, even if it's not a nanny, but I wish even once a week you had someone come to your house just so you could be yourself again.
Yeah. No, and that's why I asked that question pointedly. So I really appreciate your honesty, because there are ways that are and honestly, I choose to spend my money now on somebody cleaning my toilets versus like a designer handbag, right? I could do both if I wanted to, but I choose not. And again, those are choices that you make because I'm a better mom showing up to their games and in doing those things that I want to do versus feeling like I have to. And like you said, housework is not mothering. And that's something I do want to point out, regardless of income or whatever the case may be, both partners can participate in the housework because we're both making the mess, and teaching your kids as they get older to be a part of, again, this is not an allowance system where you have to do no, you're all a part of a family. And this is things that we need to do to be part of a family. So I definitely appreciate your honesty. And I did want to just there are other things that we can do that don't involve money. And accepting help is the number one thing that I wanted you to say. I'm so glad that you said that, because we as women don't accept help. And I had somebody say this to me because I was one of those women that I was like, no, I got you. She was like, somebody said to me, you take away the privilege of doing something for you when you do so many things for other people. And it was that statement. And I remember thinking, I just don't want to be a burden. Now I'm recognizing people want to do things to help you.
You're removing blessings.
You're removing blessings from that person. And so it was that was kind of what was the switch that I was like, oh, you're right. So now I take full advantage. They're like, I'm like, yes. Do you mind picking this up on your way over here or DoorDash? I mean, so yes, I am a recovering, not willing to accept help person. So thank you.
Do-it-aller. She's a recovering do-it-aller.
Do-it-aller.
I'm actually feeling called out, Sadaf, and I'm glad, because I'm doing an audit really quickly. And in 4 years of podcasting, what is it? 202 episodes, 102,000 downloads. Zeba, I have never told the audience that I had a nanny. Like, I had a nanny through the pandemic.
And I have to say, I've never had a nanny in my life.
Yeah. Okay. So I had a nanny from the time my kids were really little.
Yeah.
And it was because I couldn't do multiple soccer schedules. And she started like on Saturdays only. And then by the time I had my fourth child, she just became full time.
Oh.
And I was the same. I slept in and I got up to drop off my children to school, because hugging them goodbye and being there to pick them up was me mothering. Like, I'm the face that they see. That was important to me while I caught up on my sleep from my night shifts or whatever it was. So no, I did not dress them, and I outsourced bathing. That was the biggest thing to me. I have not bathed my children in years because I hated bath time. I know people love bath time, but what is so special about children making a mess in the bathroom and in your face and sometimes pooping, guys, in the bathtub? Like, you're afraid of human stew, like a baby's poop in the bathtub. And I
See,
don't
that's
love them
just
enough to take that out. I
no.
don't. I told my husband, I don't love them that much. I'm sorry, you know? So that would make me a worse mother. And I think it helped my mothering a lot to have the nanny who literally, guys, I'm not even joking. I think like 2 months ago is when I finally let her go. So I am being real. Like, I have had a nanny all of this time. And I will say at one point, my entire salary was paid for the nanny when I was a resident. And I'm not sorry, because as you guys do know on the podcast, I had 3 children in
Under
medical
3.
training, which is
Mhm.
dumb, but I did it anyway. It was subhanAllah their nasib. It was our nasib. And, the nanny saved all of our lives. So, whatever resources you can put aside. But Sadaf, I'm going to pose this question to you. And then I think we're all as a team going to work on solutions, because this is really important. But how can we improve the state of Muslim moms, especially in the West? Because we do not have the joint family systems. We don't all have the extended family systems that our parents and the generations before them grew up with. Why is it, how do we improve that state? And why is it so critical that we do?
So I think this improvement can't come from just the women doing something alone. The reason why I have help and don't feel embarrassed or guilt about the help is because of my husband. So I think that improving the state of Muslim moms is not going to come just from something we do. It's going to come from like the conversations those of us who have help have with our spouses, and encourage them to have it with their group of friends. Because I do feel like, especially depending on how the financials work, your husband, your spouse has to be on board with this idea. And especially if they also come from a place where their mom didn't have help, and they're going to think like, no, we don't need this. Like, what else can we do? Because again, there is a lot of shame and guilt. So I definitely think that it's going to come from not just like the women doing something. I think it's bringing the men on board and advocating for that. And a lot of, even with my parenting philosophy and everything, like a lot of it is working and it's going well. And the reason why I work and everything is because my husband is like my number one supporter, and he wants me to be doing well, and he wants women to be in that elevated status that the Prophet ﷺ talks about, that Allah gave us, right? So I think it's a lot of education, not for the women necessarily, but for the men. What women can do is just kind of kick away that shame and guilt by remembering that most of us whose parents grew up back home, I'm from Pakistan, they all had nannies. They all had ayahs.
I know, right?
Nobody cooks and cleans back there. So get rid of that guilt and shame, because while your mom may have done everything alone when she immigrated here, like her mom definitely didn't teach her that. Like she didn't teach her that lifestyle. So it's just remembering your roots and your ancestors. And even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, like his mom gave him away when he was little so that he could be brought up in a city that was less rough, like a city that was more nurturing to little kids. And he's our greatest example, the Prophet ﷺ. So the next time somebody tells you like, oh, like you shouldn't get help, literally just bring up that story and be like, that's part of our culture. That's part of our Islam. Like it's who we aspire to be like. So I think those are kind of key, but definitely bringing the men on board as well, not just for the financial aspect, but just because they're part of the parenting and upbringing too. It's not just you. And once they kind of recognize the hardships that you face as a mother, that can really change, honestly, the next generation of mothers and how they kind of experience motherhood. I hope, at least.
That's so funny because I have my daughter who was like, hail to the no, I'm not going to be a mom.
Oh.
She has zero interest. She was like, why would anybody voluntarily do that to themselves? And I was like, well, at least you're honest, honey. At least you're honest. So, I mean, and I would actually add, I appreciate that. I mean, I have 3 boys, so like I totally appreciate getting the boys on board. However, a lot of the hate that women get are from other women.
Mhm.
And I really want to point that out. It's the undercurrent comments. It's the, commentary. It's the fake support. So I would even venture to say, women, we need to not be doing this because we didn't do this. Even anthropologically, we're talking about going to the beginning of time. We're talking about going past the prophet, right? We did this as a community, meaning the men went out together to hunt, and the women worked together to gather. So we need to remember that it's literally written in our DNA, and it's only in the last 2 generations, I would even gather 1.5, that we've been forced to do this supermom thing. I'm going to work and do things at home and raise my kids and look hot and sexy while I'm doing it, right? It's only in this. And by the way, you add the social media and the Instagram part of it, and then it's even further. Let's add the filters. Let's add this. So you're literally diluting what motherhood actually looks like. So I would even say, guys, we need to stop doing that because that's not even anthropologically, biologically what we were supposed to be doing on this motherhood, parenthood journey.
Yeah.
I love this conversation and what you guys have set up.
As I just put
because
my cheese in my mouth because I'm hungry and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
hungry. I'm multitasking. I'm like, I have a headache. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat and do this podcast at the same time.
Self-care.
Self-care. I'm
Absolutely.
starving.
Absolutely. Now, what I did want to offer the audience was, simple solutions in the West that we can use for those of us. Like, I mean, I had a new job, new city, new husband, new pregnancy. And so it was like a setup for disaster. And like my mom had already told me, she's like, you are going to have the worst postpartum depression. Let me just tell you. And I was like, I'm not going to have it. Like, I'm not quote unquote, like, I thought it was weak. And I was like, I did not inherit that weak gene. Oh, I got that gene. And that gene is not weak. That was a strong gene. Let me tell you. So you just can't fight the mental health battle if you're not willing to have the insight to call it what it is. And as a physician, not being willing to call it what it is pretty dang embarrassing. But that's how bad denial can be. And I think that's why it was really important when my husband and I had small children and we didn't really have a community. We didn't know that many people. What we had kind of designed was this little matrix of, okay, well, we don't want to trust any strangers with our babies, but we trust these Muslim couples, a couple that we've met. We knew like 3 or 4 at that point. And we created this matrix of a babysitting system. Like, okay, like one night we'll take all the kids and they can, all 3 couples go out and then we'll just make a rotation on a monthly basis. And I think we did it. One of the families did it like 2 times. We didn't even end up dropping our kids off because we were out of town, but it didn't work. But these were like simple things that we could do, like set up a matrix of like meals. I mean, you're cooking anyway. So if you have like 2 or 3 couples and you kind of know the allergies and the taste of the family, like let me just make 4 servings of that so that I can share a meal with each of these girls. When they're cooking, they can share with me. And then look at that at the end of the day, like I have 4 different meals that we just shared. And, it's not even a I guess it's sort of a barter system, but it's a community support system. Simple things that don't cost a lot of money that we can do together as a team. And it doesn't have to be the entire community doing it. Like pick, really like what all the articles and research say you need, like 4 best girlfriends. Like, yeah, I hear you, Sadaf, when you're saying like we have to train the men and educate the men. I totally agree with that. But at the end of the day, who does the work? Hoa, right? Like the women do the work. So the women can be cooking, created the matrix for the babysitting, drop-offs, pickups. I mean, that's huge, especially as the kids get older. Sadaf, this is one advantage you have. All of your kids will be going to the same schools at the same time. Because when you have like an elementary, a middle, and a high school, you have 3 different pickups and drop-off times. So lean on those sisters and be like, hey, you do this week of pickups. I'll do this week of drop-offs. Those kinds of carpool systems will serve you so much, especially if you're somebody who works outside of the home or, if you're in a meeting or something like that. I call on my girlfriends all the time because I have like no shame when it comes to, I'm late at this meeting or I'm on the other side of town. I can't pick up my kid. I'm at a doctor's appointment. Can you go grab him or, drop off dinner tonight because I'm not home. My husband's not going to make it. Those are simple little like phone matrices, babysitting matrices, food prep matrices that, again, are not mothering, but they are mothering the mother. so that it helps her have the capacity and the cup space to now pour on her children because she's full. And I think it's really important for us to do this in the West because back home, you had your janto living down the street, or you could go to your uncle's for dinner, or your mom just comes over and cooked. Or like Sadaf said, a lot of overseas families, it is a custom to have hired help to do a lot of those things for you, the non-mothering duties. And so since we don't have that, where can we make up for it for each other? With each other. And I think that that's kind of one of the answers that we have to support ourselves when we don't have necessarily all the resources that privileged people do. And may Allah make us all capable one day to afford hiring out everything and outsourcing our non-motherly duties. But until then, I think it's our responsibility as a community to come together to inform moms. Ladies, comments, questions, suggestions. Deba, why are you muted?
Because I was chewing my cheese, remember? I'm just going to be honest about that. But no, but part of the reason is having these conversations, right? And so, and learning from each other's mistakes. So one of the things, Sada, you were very open and honest about your mental health journey, which, by the way, super appreciate because we don't like to talk about that either. But what are some of the things that you learned during that journey that you could share with our audience about one, some things to look for, some things to have done and put in place outside of outsourcing those physical mothering duties?
You mean with respect to mental health and that struggle?
Yeah.
I think something that I wish I had done was just shared and spoke openly about what I was feeling before I actually even had the kids. I spent the entire pregnancy year kind of cooped up in my house, very depressed, didn't really talk to anybody about how I was feeling, about my fears and anxieties. And I wish I had been more open about that. And then when I did have the kids, I started going to therapy, and she really helped me. And one of the things that she helped me with, which anyone can do, is going back to the things I loved doing before I was a mom. And it was just everything was stopping me from doing that. And the things I love doing is kind of what you mentioned, going to handmade markets, just grabbing a coffee and browsing the mall, even if I'm not buying, just, walking around and being inspired by the different displays. So trying to force yourself, no matter how much your brain is telling you, no, you're too tired, don't go, just like once a week doing something that you used to do and love. And maybe you'll find that you don't love it anymore, but I'm pretty sure you're going to feel refreshed after doing that. And then just basic things, hopping in the shower. There's moments where you're going to feel like, and I still feel like, this is too much. I can't do this anymore. I want to run away from home. It's not just teens that feel like that. Moms do too.
Moms do too.
And I just hop in the shower and I feel like the shower makes everything better. It's like it washes away. I do like mentally picture like washing away the overwhelm. I think that helps as well. And that's really helpful. And then getting on a call just with anyone who will take me, anyone who's available. The texting thing, I know everyone's texting now, but just calling someone and having that connection and just really starting the conversation with like, hey, I'm feeling really overwhelmed with motherhood. And I did that just on Friday. And you end up talking to a girlfriend, you laugh a little, and then you're like, wait, like this is hard and I'm going to be okay. And you just remember that, like, yeah, I can do hard things. I'm going to continue to do hard things, but I just feel a little bit happier now after talking to her. So those are things that anyone can do, and start doing them try to do them before you reach that point of no return. And it'll become a habit so that you don't reach that really, really low point as often, inshallah.
Yeah, the low point of running away from home without your hijab or shoes on, as nobody I know has done.
True story. True story. And honestly, I love it. I love when you say, for me, my mental health journey is that the tahajjud in the morning, everybody knows, like, I have to wake up if I don't get that time, it really impacts the rest of my day. And even how I view the same thing can happen to me on another day, but then I'll view it in a more negative way on those days that I don't. So I love that. And by the way, the Hajj is just like extra prayer. It's considered meditation, for those people that are not Muslim that listen to our journey. And honestly, it's something I really instruct my own clients, like, get up, even if it's getting up 15 minutes earlier than you normally get to, but having that mindfulness time and space really does can change your outlook on life. And during the summer months, or when it's warmer, when it's, a little bit warmer than 64 degrees, like how Uzma would have it, sitting outside and enjoying that time physically outside is key. So I absolutely love that. But the one thing, it's funny, as you were bringing up, I wish I would have shared, everybody, I was that mom that everyone thought, oh, is the super mom, and she's doing this and this and this. But what people didn't understand was me over mothering was a way for me to handle my own anxiety.
Yeah.
And I had to feel in control. And by the way, it does manifest itself like that. I had and have chronic anxiety. I didn't have the depression. I had chronic anxiety, and how that manifested itself was over mothering, trying to be in control of every little thing, because I didn't have that happen to me. So it can look like so many different ways. But to your point, Sadath, unless we talk about it, like I would just accept the compliment, like, yeah, but really I'm like, you have no clue what the hell I'm hiding. And that's why I have to do that, because if I don't do that, I'm going to think something atrocious is going to happen to my kid during the day if I don't do X and Y and Z before they leave. Right. And so that's another way that it manifests itself. So regulating and having these frank conversations to be like, listen, that's not true. And if you're trying to portray your life, there are a couple social media people that I'm not going to name that try to portray their life, and Uzma knows who I'm talking about. I'm just like, you're lying not only to yourself, but to everybody else that watches you, because that is just not a sustainable way to live. And we need to figure that out in order to do anything to have any impact on mental health in the mothering community, let alone in the Muslim mothering community, when we have an extra layer of things that we have to be anxious about in raising our kids in a Western world.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always a story behind like the super mom, or you see you see a certain quality in a woman or a mother that you really like. There's always a story. For me, people are like, how are you so chill? Like, how are you so calm with the kids? And I'm like, well, there's 3 of them. I literally,
you have to be.
Yeah, he took away that ability.
That ability. You have to be calm.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, you just anyone can come watch my kids. Like, we don't, as long as I kind of know them or whatever, we trust them. Like, the kids will literally eat off the floor, and I'm like, they're going to be fine. They can.
That's where I put the food.
Yeah, they can manage.
That's where they're going to eat it from anyway. Yeah. So may as well start there.
They can manage themselves. Like, they play outside, whatever. And everyone's like, how are you so chill? Like, aren't you worried about this, and that? And I'm like, no, as soon as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me 3, like, I realized that he actually wanted me to work on that anxiety, because now it's like, I know,
you have to.
Yeah, I know he's the one who's caring for them. I can't physically be like, I only have 2 hands. I can only hold 2 people's hands. So the third kid, like, you just pray, like, they're going to be fine. Yeah. They're going to be fine. Like, he's the one who's taking care of them. It's not us. And that's another thing at the end of the day with Muslim moms, is just remembering that, like, yes, these kids are in your care and it is your duty up to a certain age. But at the end of the day, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is the ultimate protector, and he is the one caring for them. And we just have to try our best. And even if we look at the stories of other women in Islam, like, there's not so many stories about like mothering or any, like, women are more emphasized for their intelligence or other things. It's not, so just not being so hard on yourself. This is one aspect of who you are. Society has just made it every aspect, but it's not, the end all be all. There's so many more facets to who you are. This is just one part.
Yeah, I love that reminder too. That's super important. But and it may stem from, like the myth of the supermom too. It's like your mother, that hadith, it's like our status is so elevated as mothers. So I think maybe we feel that pressure to be perfect. And that's not what Prophet ﷺ said at all. He just said, honor your mother, because she does, like the one Sahaba who was like, I carried my mom for Hajj on my back the whole time. Did I pay her back for, what she did for me? And he was like, you didn't pay her back for one of her labor pains. So it's like, literally that's it. We're done. Yeah. We had the labor pains. It's over. Like, our responsibility to perfection is over after that, because we did it. So I do not feel the burden of perfection anymore. And I have never felt so liberated as a mom, not just because mine are pretty self-sufficient now too, alhamdulillah, but I did that very young too. I was forbidden from having any more children by my friends because I never knew where my children were. They were just always playing. So somebody would find my child and be like, you forgot them at the masjid again. And it's like, but it was at the masjid.
Oh my
You know,
God.
Allah wanted them there, obviously, for the second Jama'ah. They were fine, right? So yeah, I will not be having any more for multiple reasons. That is one of them. But you know, it's like there's a sukoon that you get, a peace that you get from not worrying so much. Because going back to the beginning, you know, at our intro portion, there's our work. We do the best that we can. I obviously can do better keeping tabs on my children, but we do the best that we can, and the rest is Allah's work. To your point, Sadaf, and that is going to save so much mental anguish for a lot of the moms out there still struggling with this myth of perfection. But I promise you, it's not real. A lot of it is self-imposed. The little bit that is externally imposed, it's so easy to ignore once you reach a certain point. And if you're not there yet, and you're one of those anxious moms and needs a place to call, our DMs are always open for you. Our comments are always open for you. We'll give you our cell phone number if you really, really want it, and you can call us.
Not
and
mine.
You
You can call Uzma.
Yeah, because I'm the one.
Mine is always on do not disturb.
Yes, that is true, because she protects her boundaries. So we like to end the podcast setup with a rapid fire segment. And it's just some fun questions because we talked about a lot of heavy stuff right now, and we want the audience to get to know you better. So these are super fun. Top of mind is always the correct answer on here. And we like to kick it off with our first question, which is always, what book are you reading right now?
Ooh, okay. I'm reading How I Survived a Chinese Concentration Camp.
Wow, that is a very deep book, but it's to your work that you're doing right now, which of course we're going to link in our show notes.
Yeah, so I'm doing work with the Uyghurs, and I started reading that. It's awesome. I definitely recommend it.
Okay, well, we were trying to keep this light, but
sorry,
that sounds like light reading.
I don't read.
Well, no worries.
I'm always working. I don't read anything light, really. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. If you could learn any language in 1 week, which would it be?
Arabic came to mind. I can read it, but I don't, understand it, and I can't speak conversationally. So Arabic came to mind. Yeah.
Arabic sounds good. All right. What's one thing about you that surprises other people?
Oh, that I am actually a really good cook.
Oh, that surprises people? I'm a little bit
It surprises them because I never cook. Like I trained with a chef. Like I'm not a chef, but I took courses with a chef when I got married, and I cook really, really well. I just never do it. Yeah.
Okay. We've talked a lot about growing and, growth mindsets, changing our mindsets about motherhood. And it's different for everybody depending on the age that you are. But based on that conversation, what age do you think is the best age to be when you have like the most like understanding?
To have kids or just to be?
Just to know what's truth and what's false.
Oh, I would
like, how Zeba can look at an IG account and be like,
I would say this age right now. I'm 37. I'm 37. This 37. Has been the year. Yeah.
I love it. But I mean, you got it a lot earlier than the Uzma and I.
Than a lot of us did, yeah.
I was in my 40s, girl, before that happened.
I was 38, to be honest, when I realized that caring about what other people like really does not serve me in any way and harms my mental health. I was 38, so I was not far. I'm not that.
And now
old,
I'm just honest. Now I'm just like, I had a friend who was like, wanted to go get her a birthday lunch or something. I'm just going to be blunt about that. So I was like, yeah, I'm not in the mental space to take you. I'll see you next week. I mean, and back in the day, you'd have to like pretend to be like, oh, I'm a little bit. Now I'm like, I'm not busy. I just don't want to do it. I love you, but I just don't want to do it right now. I wouldn't be good company. And there's a beauty in accepting the freedom of that. And that doesn't happen in your 20s, ladies. As much as I hate to tell you.
I know. I wish I was not that evolved.
No.
Until 38, actually. So yeah. I'm going to ask one final question. I don't care that we're out of time. You talked about calling somebody because you like to still use the phone. That does not sound like fun to me.
Yeah.
I'm a texter.
I'm a texter too.
When the phone rings, like I have PTSD from.
I know your heart starts beating. You're like,
my heart starts beating fast. Like, why do they want to talk to me? So who's the person? And you can use their name or not. It's totally your choice. Who's the person you talk to when you need a listening ear?
Ooh, so it's actually my husband who I talk to when I need a listening
that.
ear. Yeah, he is always there for me. And on Friday it was my friend Sidra, because she just became a new mom, and so I feel
Aw.
useful to her. Like I feel useful.
Yes.
But then I know
Sometimes that empowers you, makes you feel empowered.
yeah. And then she also helps me. So I don't hold back either. I still complain about, even though mine are 5, I still complain about it to her, and then she complains about hers, and then we feel better.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that.
We'll call it sharing notes and not complaining, because none of us are
Yes.
complaining. We are just sharing our experiences, which are absolutely legitimate, and it should be allowed, and we should not be made to feel guilty for not loving every second of motherhood, because I swear to God, there's more unlovable moments than there are lovable
Agreed.
ones.
100%.
But those moments that
100%.
are lovable
Everything.
are
They
freaking
carry you.
They're
amazing.
everything.
They carry
That's
you.
why we still do
Yeah.
it. Yep.
That's why
Yeah.
you keep doing it.
I do have to make a plug for this Netflix movie I just watched last night with my youngest called Otherhood.
Ooh, I'm looking for
Otherhood.
a
And
movie.
I forgot to talk about it at the intro, but Otherhood is these 3 moms and their sons grow up and then they don't talk to them anymore because they're busy. You know, they're young men living their lives. And I was like, oh no, you see these women and how they showed up in their lives later on to embarrass them at work? That's going to be me. And
You mean
I do not
Otherhood, like they don't
understand.
talk to their mamas?
Like, you know, they forgot Mother's Day. So like
Oh,
one
hell
texted his
no.
mom on Mother's Day. One mom had to send herself flowers on Mother's Day. And I was like, and then the moms didn't want to go visit the sons in their homes and stay with them. And I'm like,
Oh no.
thank God we're Muslim. We don't have boundaries like that. Like,
Yeah.
we won't show up at your front door because you lived in my womb for 9
Oh,
months.
heck
So
no.
you owe me at least
Everybody
that long.
knows about my Gigi summer camp, okay? Like you suckers are living with me in the summertime, and if not you, you're giving me your kids, even if I don't have
Yeah.
to see you. So we've already
Yeah.
talked about it, and my kids are like, "Yep, we're
My
gonna
kids, my
They just
grandkids
talk
are
about it
going to you
openly.
too, Gma.
I know you should, please.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love it. Like that's my
Because I know I don't want them.
I know she's like, I don't want. I'm like, everybody send them to me. I'm gonna have a farm. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going to have a farm of children. I love it. Like that to me is what I love doing. So like it takes all types of folks to get, but getting called in the middle of the night to go take care of an old person. Yeah, that's not my jam. So like everybody does their own thing and we have to accept it. And thank you so much, Sadaf, and for coming on the show and letting us know all about your take on motherhood.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sadaf.
This episode is sponsored by Guidance Residential. Join Guidance Residential this November 9th for their consumer webinar, The Benefits of Islamic Home Financing, where you can find out best practices and tips on how to make the home buying experience smooth and easy for you and your community. Topics covered include the benefits of homeownership, understanding riba and today's lending practices, the differences between the Sharia way and the conventional way, how to prepare your finances and mistakes to avoid, what to expect during the home buying and searching process, and Q&A for the first-time home buyer. Share this event with your networks and register for limited seats at www.guidanceresidential.com.